Hey folks, Quilly here, and welcome to another episode of I got to play Sid Meier's Civilization VII for 3 hours at the Firaxis headquarters, and I'm here to talk to you about it. The footage you're seeing was not recorded by me. I was not allowed to record my own footage. This was B-roll provided to me by Firaxis, but it is still giving us an opportunity to talk about all kinds of good stuff. We were limited in our playthrough to just the first age, the Antiquities age. There's lots of late game stuff that we do not know the answer to yet, and I'm very excited to find out more in the future. Right now, what we're going to do is look at the leader attributes. So currently, we've got this little icon. We've seen it in a couple of the previous videos, sort of hovering over there. There are various things you can do, mostly by progressing through some of your age journal, these sort of quests to progress the age. That's something else we're going to see on another screen coming up relatively soon. But you can get these leader trait points, these attribute points. So if I go and unpause here and let it go, there you go, attribute screen down below. You'd also get directly to it, I think, if you just clicked on the blue marker. We can see leader attributes. And in fact, there are 6 different categories of leader attributes, and these are entire sort of trees on their own. Unfortunately, I don't believe they actually scroll down in this video to see what goes down here. This is the cultural tab, and they actually have a cultural point available. You earn points in a specific attribute category and then progress there. So the current player playing as Augustus has a culture point. They've already unlocked the first ability, which is +1 culture per age on the palace and city halls. They're now going to be able to invest their second point either in 10% boost towards constructing wonders or 25% culture towards studying civic masteries. Now, these traits, these attributes, apparently will follow you through the entirety of the game. Apparently, they went through a few different iterations as to whether, some of these things are lost as you go through the ages, but it didn't feel satisfying. So it's my understanding, I think, that these are permanent unlocks that will pursue you through the game. And you can see with 6 different categories, each one of them is having some fairly significant trees. There's a lot of opportunity for you to tweak and customize your experience on every particular game through. One could imagine you playing as Augustus of Rome. And again, you can mix and match your leaders. So you could be Augustus of Egypt or whatever, but you could imagine 6 different playthroughs of Augustus of Rome where you really hyper-focus on these different things in different ways. Now, in practice, you're going to get a smattering of points in different categories as you go, because you're going to be accomplishing certain things in certain categories just by playing the game. But very likely you're going to have more points in certain categories than others, depending on what you're focusing on. As we push, say, building lots of wonders and progressing down the cultural age legacy, I think is the term they use, then presumably we'll generate more cultural attribute points and therefore unlocking more, which does then help the build, because this cultural stuff, a lot of things could help you build more wonders. Building more wonders will help you progress down this further and further, so it's it reinforces that kind of behavior. So we've got that. I don't think they click through the different tabs, unfortunately, so I don't think we're going to get a preview of those particular screens. No, they're just going to close that over here. Hey, and they're going to go and talk about wonders and show wonders. All right, so wonders do work. Oh yeah, they're just going to show some of these little cutscenes. Wonders do work like in Civ 6, where we do plop them down on a particular tile for them to get built. And we get these cool cutscenes once again. I mean, I love that. Back in the day, the pre-rendered wonder videos were cool, but in practice, I think the real world view here is really exciting. So there you go. Colosseum's been built. That was a whole view of the wonder. How exciting. Okay, combat and commanders. This is a big one. Big, huge change to Civ 7, doing things that we have not seen in previous versions. Now, at its base, combat and the way units move, very similar to how they've been in Civ 5 and Civ 6. Ever since we want one unit per tile, certain things are there. We've got our units. They move around. They have a basic move of 2, as far as I could tell. You've got melee units. You've got ranged units. Ranged units do the ranged bombard kind of thing in a very similar way that we have seen in 5 and 6. So it's not so much the combat changes are, I mean, there's going to be a few, right? The different, the numbers are going to be a little bit different. The traits are going to be a little different, like the innate, like how does a cavalry work versus a melee unit? Some of those might be tweaked a little bit, but basically the units are kind of the same. The big difference is the existence of army commanders, and also the fact that units themselves don't level up and don't gain traits, right? In different versions of Civs have handled promotions for units in very different ways. Well, in Civ 7, the individual combat units don't gain promotions. Instead, it's the army commanders that gain it. Now, if we pause here, you can see the army commander, there's this little green outline. That's the limit of how far they can move, right? Sure, fine. And then we got this white outline over here, which is the range at which it gives benefits to your other units, right? Your units will gain buffs based on the army commander's traits when they're near here. Also, the army commander gains experience points from units doing combat in these hexes over here, right? When these units here are participating in battle, the army commander is the thing earning XP. Again, the individual units, as far as we understand and been told, don't gain XP, don't level up. This is an effort to reduce a certain amount of micromanagement. Also, it's an effort to make these army commanders feel really big and important and critical. And they will be a key part of your military strategy in a variety of different ways. So here we can see the promotion button happen, and there are a number of different promotions you can do with the army commander. There's different categories. They have their own little subtrees, and they do interesting focus. Bastion, very defensive boost. Assault, more offensive boost. They more directly boost your actual combat ability, right? How good your units are going to be in combat. If you look at logistics and also leadership, these are going to work a bit differently, because you can see logistics, this trait here, 15% production towards training land units when stationed in district. This recruitment upgrade, I mean, combinations? No, combinations are down here. I don't know, these upgrades, these traits for these promotions, I suppose, for this army commander, doesn't actually help your units fight better. This one, now, plenty of these do, but this one just makes you produce units faster if this army commander is parked at home. Some of the leadership traits, and I think they're going to mouse over this one over here in a second. Yeah, so maneuver does give you combat bonuses because you get flanking bonus or flanking negative malice to your enemies. But leadership here, there we go, zeal, plus 5% to yields in a settlement when stationed in district. So you can have an army commander that isn't really, especially if they're more defensively minded, right? You're not going out in the field. They're spending a lot of time at home. There's times of peace that are going on. You might invest in these things that are boosting your empire in different ways. You can have lots of army commanders. They're not like great people. You just build an army commander. And I believe I've been told, I didn't experience this personally, but I have been told if your army commander is killed, they do respawn later. Or possibly it's the next time you build an army commander, you bring this person back. So you don't lose them. This investments kind of stick around, which is good because it could be frustrating otherwise. It could also be very snowbally. Imagine you've invested lots in army commander and then they die and all of a sudden you're in such a bad position. So it's sort of an anti-snowball. This logistics trait, which is what they're about to click on over here, does some very different things. Plus 2 unit slots. What does that mean? And faster reinforcements for this commander. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we're going to see that in just a second. So they're going to click on that anytime now. Thank you. Confirm. So we're going to see the slots first. So the army commander over here, this is the army commander, and it's got these 6 boxes over here. And they're about to hit a button that says, oh, not that one. There we go. This one here. Gather adjacent land units to form up on the army commander. We're going to see what happens when they hit this button. This army commander is just going to vacuum up all the units within its radius into itself. I believe the army commander starts with 3 slots. I think there was a technology that unlocked the 4th slot, and then the logistics promotion that they just gave this army commander added 2 more, so they've got the 6 slots over here. So they can vacuum up, they can have up to 6 military units with all these upgrades, up to 6 military units within them, which makes sense because there's also, 6 adjacent hexes to where you are. And now what happens, this unit doesn't fight as one. We are not back to Doom stacks. This is not Civ 4, and let me tell you, I love Civ 4. Absolutely adore Civ 4. But we're not going back to Doom stacks over here. This is not one unit that fights together. This is simply one unit that moves together. This is not a tactical formation that is used for combat. This is a strategic formation to navigate the map more easily and conveniently. This is now one unit that moves around the map as a single blob. One of the issues with Civ 5 and Civ 6, ever since they added 1 unit per tile, is moving in the mid to late game. When you've got, say, a dozen units and you're trying to march them across the map to go and fight someone, it's a huge pain in the butt because you've got to move all these individual units. They bump into each other all the time. They bump into terrain. They get in each other's way in a way that doesn't feel entirely realistic, right? Like a narrow mountain pass, yes, it's a choke point for battles, but realistically, you could sort of bunch up your armies and march them through, and then after you get past the mountain pass, then you spread them out again into a proper battle line, right? That's what's being represented over here. It's to reduce the frustration of how annoying it is to move a large number of units across the map in a 1 unit per tile game. Theoretically, this could also make the AI considerably stronger because it will make it a lot easier for the AI to move a large number of troops across the map. Since Civ 5 introduced 1 unit per tile, and that continued in Civ 6, the AI is simply not as good as a human at fighting battles with 1 unit per tile, because Civ is more complicated than chess, and it takes a supercomputer to beat humans at chess. So was always going to be a limit on the AI there. But now the AI is going to be able to move units across the map a lot easier. And as a player, you're going to be a lot less frustrated by you moving units about the map. One of the problems would happen, like you take one unit that was way far back, and you'd right click somewhere far away, and they'd start moving, and then some unit would just like happen to walk through that tile at some point, which would cancel your movement. So you'd have to reissue it over and over and over. And boy, what a pain in the butt that was. Now it's not going to be the issue because you're moving en masse. And here's the flip side of it, of what happens when you actually want to fight. So in this game, this is back to Chepset over here. This is a army commander that just got 3 units within it. And it's going to move up over here, and it's going to deploy these units on the battlefield. So they're going to click this button right over here. There you go. Deploy stacked units into adjacent tile. They click on that. You're then going to pick what tile to deploy the units towards. So they're going to click over here, and it's going to deploy the 3 units in a fairly logical way. The melee unit is in the front. The archer is further back. We got the cavalry over here as well. So these have all been deployed. So you unpack and get ready for the actual combat. These units are all within range of the army commander. So whatever promotion the army commander might have will benefit these units. Furthermore, if these units fight, the army commander will start collecting that experience as well. Also notice that these units are very different culturally from one another, but not only are they different culturally from each other, individual unit stacks, each unit in here gets its outfits done sort of procedurally is not exactly the right way, but there's the base model, and then they get all the clothing and accessories applied afterwards with randomness. So all the people have, you know, slightly different hats. You're going to have like 3 different warrior units next to each other, and they'll all those units will all look a little bit different from each other. Apparently it's going to be great for modability and things. And mostly the unit artists are just really excited about this. There's a lot more art assets that go into this game than the previous ones. They weren't able to give us a lot of specifics about like the size and composition of the development team, because that, you know, that's all like very NDA kind of stuff. But I think the design team was a little bit bigger in this than previous versions of Civ, but I think the art asset and production teams are substantially bigger than before. The world map looks great. Again, highly compressed, right? I'm playing this. This video is being recorded on B-roll footage that has already been highly compressed. Then I'm doing a screen recording of it, and OBS is compressing it again. Then I'm uploading it to YouTube, and it's compressing it again. All the landscapes here look, you know, there's just a little bit fuzzy, a little bit muddy. Playing this live, it looks really gorgeous. And again, we talked about how each city, all the buildings are culturally unique. The units are culturally unique as well. And then we get this variation, which is really lovely. So we get some combat here. There's actually some extra buttons on the Army Commander that isn't demonstrated in this video, but there are handy buttons that show up kind of on the bar down here, but for the Army Commander to do en masse attack with your units as well. So you don't have to like click a bunch of individual units. You can, if you need to micro and do the exact right thing. But I was a big fan, especially there was a button for like a mass melee attack as well as mass ranged attack. I use the ranged attack one a lot. You click it on the Army Commander, click on the target, and then all the ranged units within range of the Army Commander would fire at the target at one, saving you a few clicks, and which was really nice. I think the units got like +1 to attack strength from doing it that way too. So not only was it convenient, but it means that if you create sort of almost like formations, there's not really an army formation mechanic here, not a hard-coded one, but it exists in the game in that if your army is all in place and you can use these mass attacks, you get a slight bonus to it, and it felt good. So I think the whole idea is to maybe minimize a few of the clicks that are involved in warfare. The biggest thing will be the movement. Actually, the thing I need to talk about is another one of the buttons that is available on the Army Commander called the reinforcement button. We saw a mention of reinforcement when we were seeing the promotion that was being applied to the Army Commander here, right? The regiments right there. Faster reinforcements for the commander. What is reinforcements? This has nothing to do with healing your unit. Instead, it has, again, to do with moving units across the field. Imagine the situation where you are playing as Rome and you're fighting Egypt, right? And Egypt is on the other side of the continent. You've got your army, you've got your main units over there. They're all at the front line fighting. And then way back in your capital city, you've just popped out a new archer. And again, you're going to be in this situation of, right, I got to get this archer to the front line. So you select it, you right click somewhere. It takes a number of turns to get there. It might get its movement canceled partway through. All these little kind of annoying things, right? Or you're reinforcing, you've got a number of units moving forward and then they're bumping each other, getting in each other's way. The reinforcement button, which exists on the commander, you click it, then you click on the unit. So you've built back at Rome, you've constructed an archer. So you select your army commander on the front line, you click reinforcement, then you go to Rome and you click on the archer. And what happens is the archer disappears from the world map. And it moves towards the army commander. It will take some number of turns to get to the army commander, but it will move directly to the army commander, ignoring, as I understand it, ignoring terrain, and therefore getting to the front line faster, getting to the front line without annoying and unfun micromanagement, which sounds very good. Again, maybe we'll start playing the game and it'll turn out, oh, you know what, this is silly for reasons X, Y, and Z. But it sounds like eliminating something is inherently unfun. And it also gives you the ability to do stuff like this, where you get upgrades, faster reinforcements for this commander. So presumably these archer reinforcements will move to the front even faster. I don't know exactly what this does, but let's assume that normal reinforcement simply allows the unit to move at full speed, ignoring terrain, right? So it moves 2 units per tile every turn. Let's assume it starts with that. One could assume that this changed it to make it move at 3 tiles per turn. We've played other games on this channel where we have the idea of strategic movement on the world map that causes the morale on unit or the organization on unit to go temporarily to 0, but allows the unit to move very quickly across the world map so it can get to the front line, at which point it has to rebuild its morale or its organization, but it's a very convenient thing to do. And one can imagine effectively that's what's going on here. And the whole idea is to remove sort of tedious micromanagement from the player that the player might not enjoy. So I think that's very cool and has great potential. These army commanders, everything about warfare will depend very highly on how these army commanders feel in battle. And that's something we'll only know with experience. But the theory of it sounds very good to me. I'm way into the theory of it, and I've got my fingers crossed that it's going to turn out to be just as fun and convenient as it feels like it should be. Oh, yeah, we can get a little bit of a preview. So this button here was the reinforce button, and then down here in the Army Commander, this is the mass melee attack, and this is the mass ranged attack button over here. So we definitely have those possibilities. We just don't showcase it in the video. All right, we're going to put a cut in here, and the next episode is going to be the Crisis and Legacy Path. These are huge deals. This is how the age mechanic works. Legacy paths are how you use the ages while you're in them, and the crisis is one of the mechanics that pushes you forward out of the current age and into the next one. So stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to talk about this very important aspect of Civ 7. As always, liking and commenting does huge things for the YouTube algorithm, and is always highly appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. See you next time.